responsibility for what you've done. Even today, you're blaming your wife, you're blaming drugs,
whatsoever.
you are indicating that you don't know why your daughter, whose statement was read, would say those things. She's saying those things because you did horrible, despicable things to her and nearly destroyed her life. And you don't accept responsibility for that. So
Nearly 20 years ago, to the date of this parole hearing, Miss Bonnie Jackson resided as the judge over this case where he took a plea deal. Fast forward, and she's sitting as a parole board member. This is one of the more disturbing cases that we've covered, and as you know, that is saying a lot. Let's jump into this hearing, and I'll unpack it at the end. Let's go.
Classified as a first felony offender. Offenses: forcible rape, aggravated oral sexual battery, molestation of a juvenile, oral sexual battery, attempt aggravated rape, attempt aggravated incest, attempt pornography involving juveniles. Sentencing date: May 16, 2001. Sentenced to a total of 40 years. Parole date: August 1st, 2021. Good time: September 13, 2033. Full term: August 9th, 2040. Is this information correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Ms. Renata.
Mr. Torres, I'm sorry, Mr. Renata, Mr. Torres, it's my understanding that Ms. Bonnie Jackson was your sentencing judge in your case. She is on the panel today. It's also my understanding that you're waiving any objections to having her here sit on the panel. Is that correct?
No, I thought about it, and I'm gonna allow that. I think it's actually good because
Okay, so you have no objections. You're
no
okay with her?
objections, sir.
Okay, so we'll continue the parole process with Ms. Bonnie Jackson. Just want to have that for the record. Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay,
Mr. Kelsey.
Ms.
Good morning, Mr. Torres. Good morning, sir.
How you doing, man?
I'm good. Thanks for asking. My name is Cheryl Renazzi. Your case has been assigned to me, so I'll start off asking your questions, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
So, Mr. Torres, how old are you, sir?
I'm now 60 years old.
60? And how long have you been in jail?
Altogether, probably 21 years, around 21. And then before they extradited me, they didn't give me credit, but so around that, 21, 22.
Okay, so you were in your late 30s when this crime occurred?
40. From
You were 40.
around 40s. Yeah, best of my recollection.
Okay. And the victims in this crime were your own children?
Altogether, I'm be honest, is my stepdaughter, Ashley, Paul, my stepson, and Joanne, these are the victims that are all associated with this crime, and their mother, which also was convicted.
Okay. And you were arrested in Michigan, is that right? And
Yeah.
extradited back to Louisiana?
Yeah, I was at my father's house, was an ex-sheriff.
Okay. So you've been in jail 21 years. I want to talk about what you've done since you've been in jail. I noticed you've taken a lot of classes. You've earned 330 some odd days, I believe, of credits for your educational programs. You got your GED. You did all the phases of the sex offender treatment. You've done AA and NA multiple times.
Yeah, my favorite
Living
class.
in balance, parenting, cage or rage. Is there anything that I missed that you may have taken?
No, some new Christian classes that I finally got certificates and stuff like that. Various. I always try to keep in a class. I mean, if I wasn't working or I was working, I'd stay in a class. I mean, because it was my duty, to prove to my kids that I'm gonna try and rehabilitate myself best I can. It's
So did I
no,
miss anything besides the faith-based programs?
I don't believe so.
Well, one thing that I noticed that I feel like was missing and is concerning to me is victim awareness. Did you take any victim awareness classes?
They didn't have any so far, and I've been trying to get them. And even the one that you write a letter, I've been trying to get into that, but I just somehow keep missing it or wasn't available. I'd like to do that because I'm in Malachi dads, and that's part of it. You know, you need. It's a good thing. You know,
Mhm.
I mean, I wish I could. All this time, I wish I could have addressed that. I mean, that's why this hearing, I am going to express my first time since, you know, haven't seen my youngest daughter since they arrested a foster parent for raping her. You know, I mean, and everything just went south from there. And she even tried to come and see me, and it just they.
So tell us, not in graphic terms, but tell us, what did you do to your children?
Between me and my wife, we molested our children. Well, I was an addict, and it's not an excuse, but I was out of control. I mean, and I didn't know how to really hold a relationship with my wife. I mean, she's my common law wife, the court says. We've been together that long, and I was trying to hold it together after putting her through college and everything. She wanted to leave, and I would do anything, and she wanted to have fun, and she wanted some coke, and I went and got it, and she wanted to try something new, you know. But that wasn't. We didn't start then with the kids. Then that was first just starting out, you know, watching the pornos and acting out.
And so the abuse of the children, the sexual abuse and rape of the children, incest, whatever, all of it was over a long period of time. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you ever, I know we talked about victim awareness, but you know, what I saw in the record, there were some unspeakable things that happened. What impact do you believe that had on those children?
That was the worst thing that probably could possibly happen. You know, I've learned a lot because I've been studying it, and there's this thing called cycling, and I don't want them to go through what I did. And that was the stupidest thing. And I don't know how, when I said I'd never do that, I ended up doing it. And I know alcohol and the drugs I was taking is no excuse, but I took the drugs, and I bought the films. I'm, you know, and me and my wife, she wanted, you know, and I did it. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. I won't sugarcoat it. I won't.
Well, at one part of the record that I reviewed, you claimed, with one of the victims at least, that it was a consensual situation.
Yeah, and well, there was on their computer a diary, but they destroyed the lieutenant. He never sent it to a lab. He destroyed it, and he took my computer home and sent it to a separate lab. That's why I wish everything would have really came out, but it just never did. And I was so drugged up between the jail, you know, and I was doing drugs.
She denies that it was a consensual situation.
She denied it.
She denied it.
Well,
she was repeatedly beaten and forced to endure it.
Not beaten.
I don't want to discuss it. I'm just telling you that's what's in the record.
It would have shown. It would have shown.
I'm sorry, I don't have any other questions, Mr. Kelsey.
Warden, you have any input for us?
No, so I'm not really familiar with David. I you know, come back and I see his disciplinary record is about the only thing I can speak on. He don't cause a lot of problems around.
Right, thank you. All right, we'll hear from Miss Jackie Wilson. Okay, you need to take me. Okay, we can hear you.
Yes, yes, I've been knowing David for 7 years. I've been going before COVID, I went to visit him 2 or 3 times a month. Um, and at those times, he's donated artwork, which goes to the Our Lady of Lourdes Hospital for cancer patients. So we've made lots of money from his donations for that. I've been around him. He's always been on the elite group ever since I've met him. And so that afforded my visits to be at least 4 hours long. I've never known him to be in trouble. I've never felt anything, any gut feeling that, felt bad around him. I've been in contact with him for every day almost for 7 years. And I've never seen anything but remorse for what he's done. Well, we've talked about that. And he's so sorry, and he would love to be able to apologize to them if they would even, give him the chance. But he realizes that if they don't want anything to do with him, that's their choice. And, he's willing to accept that and never bother them. I can say, honestly say, I think he's changed. I don't think he will ever do alcohol and drugs again. I mean, I'm sure he's had the opportunity to do that in the jail system, but he hasn't. He has, as long as I've known him, has never had a write-up in the past 7 years. And before I was there, he was on the elite group too. So I don't know how long he's been without a write-up. I think he's truly remorseful. And I believe I would take him home with me. If I wasn't in a relationship, I trust him enough to be around my family. So I think he deserves a second chance. Thank you very much
All
for
right,
giving
thank you.
me.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Ms. Julie Calora.
Thank you, Mr. Kelsey. I'm going to read a statement on behalf of one of the victims, Jillian Torres, daughter of David Torres. Writing this letter has been mind-boggling and shakes my core. I never thought this would be a consideration for such a monster. I shouldn't have to endure any more agonizing pain than I already have. I honestly feel this release of David Torres is a mistake. How could such a vile human ever have this choice? I'm the one that will always be looking over my shoulder and fearing for my and my daughter's life. Even without a restraining order against him, I feel that that wouldn't stop him from contacting me. He has threatened my life before at a young age. No child should ever feel threatened by their dad. He made sure every day I ever spent with him was abusive and manipulative. I have nightmares to this day of it all. I tried to put it past me, but what was done to me will forever haunt me. There is no moving past it. I live every day with the damage he caused mentally and physically. I was told I would never be able to carry a child because of what he did. Thank God he blessed my husband and I with a child. Sadly, though, I had 4 miscarriages. It was hard to go through when all you want is your family you don't have. My child suffers because she is the only child and she's meant to have siblings, and it's so sad because we can't make that happen. I now have to protect my daughter from this monster. If he were ever to get released back into society, I will until my very last breath do what I have to protect my family. I think I have suffered enough already. I have to have therapy just to get through with my life. I see I'm strong and I want my story to be heard. The life I have been given, I can write a series. That's so much I've been through. I thought it would break me, but I'm still here. I have faith. I'm here for a reason and I'll keep going until God brings me home. My family and my circle is small. I even have family that rather not talk to me just because of the fact that he's my dad. My family I've gained over the years is from being a ward of the state. They took me in as family and I call them parents, sisters, brothers, aunts, uncles, cousins, and friends. They are here for me more than my own blood. I've cried on their shoulders many of times. I wish to be loved or yearn for a family that instead I was given this human being who has no remorse and has such a sick mind. I went through a total of 8 placement homes plus more moves. From what I went through over the years, all the challenges, it has made me the person I am today.
I don't want to live in fear with the remaining life I have left, considering he destroyed my life before I even got to begin it. My husband has seen my worst days. He witnessed me have flashbacks, be triggered by simple things. Ms. Torres asked me to add that she has had difficulties in her relationships due to the abuse. I want to move forward regardless of the hurt. I always have. My guard stays up no matter what. I will make sure no one will hurt my child or I. Also, I care about other children that may be in his past. Because of his past actions would have led him to prison. I asked for my dad, David Torres, not to be released. This world we got now, as crazy as it is, with him behind bars. If he gets released, I ask for no contact with him, nor with my family whatsoever. There was a point in time I asked him why, or for an apology, not that it would matter. I can't even process why any parent would ever intentionally hurt their own flesh and blood, their child. I'm so thankful for who I am after the pain I've lived through, for which he caused. He will not break me. I ask from the heavens you deeply consider not to release him into a free world. May God be with all of us if you do. He is a danger to my child and I. The things he has done are unspeakable, and no doubt in my mind he would do it again or to another. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Ms. Barbera?
Thank you, Mr. Kelsey. I will just simply state that he was given a gift with this plea agreement, that he only received 40 years. What you have read in this record and what you have read from the impact his actions have had on these victims, you know that he is very deserving of a life sentence. He got, as the inmates refer to it, he got numbers instead of letters. He does have a release date. I believe it's 2033. He has a good time parole date. He will be released back into society, but based upon what he did, he earned every single day that he will be in the Department of Corrections. Please do not victimize these people again and deny his parole. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, Torres, would you like to make a statement on your behalf?
Yes, best
Go
that I
ahead.
can. I've never had a chance to even talk to Joanne when we were going to the family hearing. I've never heard most of this. I mean, I don't understand, but anything she says, I will accept. I mean, but it's just this is so different completely all the letters she wrote me. I don't understand. I mean, and then after they arrested the foster parent, everything changed. She even tried to come and see me at the prison. I mean, she never wrote this. I mean, I never had a chance because the social worker said, if you say anything, all you can just say is hello. You can't say you're sorry. You can't. I was never allowed. And then they removed the caseworker because she was neglecting her. I mean, all these years, anything I've done, it eats me up. I would never harm her. I never tried to contact her because when I worked for the PREA captain at Allen and his wife and his family, they said she tried to contact you and something happened. She's going to contact you again. Just be patient. And I've done everything I've been told. I mean, I work for wardens. I mean, all the good people. I've tried to attach myself to the right people so I can change and they can help me. Like Miss Jackson, Miss Jackie, she literally emptied out my head, everything, and that made a change, to where I'm not gonna violate. I don't violate in prison. I walk away. I learn to say no. I help other people. I mentor other guys to keep off drugs. I've had 2 operations and the doctors don't want to know why I won't take any drugs. I tell them I'm not taking anything, no matter what. And I went through it awake. This day was going to be my day to say I'm so sorry for anything with any of those kids, and Paul, Ashley, and my daughter Joanne. But I'm so hurt right now, and I imagine they're hurt because I can't even look at a movie or hear something bad or good and then realize what I've lost or what I've destroyed. I had to destroy it. You know, I was involved with her mother and I did it. And I'm not gonna lie, but I won't reoffend. You know, and people believed in me all these years because I had to prove to them. And every time I have a chance, I proved to them. And people were willing to give me a job, give me a place, and supervise me. And I'm not. You couldn't make me do anything wrong. It won't happen. And I want to get in the right groups. And the AA group, they're with me. You know, I've been all these years. I'm not gonna. I appreciate this chance to say I'm sorry, but now I'm such in a really shocked that it was hard for me to get on, and I just wanted to let my daughter know, and my stepdaughter and son, that this should have never happened. And I'm not the same man I was 20 years ago, and I made sure that I've stuck myself out there for people to watch me, and and I'm in a place of responsibility and where I can show them, and I've shown them. Even in here, I have my own personal art room, and I don't do anything wrong. All I want to do is give back, and Miss Jackie showed me how to do that, and I've healed people, their kids that have been hurt or died. She has my portfolio.
Right.
I want to give back.
All right.
I just want to let you know that I am so sorry for that past. I'm dead. That's dead. And if I don't, I gotta find a way for them to move on. And I'd never go after them, and never. I don't even know where they're at or their names.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you for your statement.
Yes.
Is the panel prepared to vote?
Yes.
Renata?
Mr. Torres, I hear what you're saying. I hear you say you're sorry, but what I don't think you have a good understanding of the impact you had on these victims. You say, no, it should have never happened, and no, it shouldn't have, but whatever happened will impact them for the rest of their lives. I am glad that you're doing well where you're at. I agree with the DA's office that you got a pretty sweet deal, because you pled and made an agreement and took the deal to get what you got instead of a life sentence. I'm glad that you are connected to Ms. Wilson, and that you're able to do the donations and give back in that way and have positive impact. You do have a good conduct record. You haven't had a high court write-up in over 15 years. But again, I believe that you still haven't accepted the severity of your actions and the impact that you've had on your victims. I believe that you need to seek out a victim awareness education program. Ask about the victim accountability letter. Yes, it's against the law for you to attempt to contact them, but there is some work that you still need to do in that regard. My vote today, because of the very strong opposition that's been expressed here today by the prosecutor's office and law enforcement we have in the record, and the victims, my vote today is to deny your parole. Good luck, Mr. Torres.
All right, Ms. Jackson?
Right. Mr. Torres, obviously I'm quite familiar with your case. And unfortunately, what I see today is what I saw over 20 years ago. That is, you still don't accept responsibility for what you've done. Even today, you're blaming your wife, you're blaming drugs, you are indicating that you don't know why your daughter, whose statement was read, would say those things. She's saying those things because you did horrible, despicable things to her and nearly destroyed her life. And you don't accept responsibility for that. So for the reasons Ms. Renata stated, there's very strong opposition from the victim, from law enforcement, from the district attorney's office. I do think there's a lot more work that needs to be done. I just don't know if courses or programs will change your thinking and your personality and your outlook. It troubled me that you wouldn't even acknowledge that, at least one of the victims was your biological daughter. You just seem in so many respects out of touch with the reality of who you are, what you've done, and the impact of your crimes on the people that you hurt. And so I'm going to vote today to deny for the same reasons as Ms. Renata, but I'm going to tell you that you've got a lot of work to do, not just external work. People can sit in classes and take classes, but that means nothing if it doesn't reach inside of you and change you. And for you to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I did some horrible things to my children. And it's not their fault. It's not drugs' fault. It's not my wife's fault. I did these horrible things, and I need to deal with what allowed me to do these things so that you can be a better person. But today my vote is to deny.
All right, 2 votes to deny your parole. Also vote to deny your parole for the same reasons as stated. 3 votes to deny. Today your parole's been denied. Thank you.
I see I'm strong and I want my story to be heard. That's quoting from one of the survivors' speech. And that's part of why we do this, because this hearing has fewer than 900 views when I recorded it. And why I tell you, we're going to get this one up to tens of thousands. Her story is going to be heard. This monster, this roach that we call him, it's the poster child of evil. Really, it is. And you just wouldn't believe it if you didn't see it. You just couldn't. The looks on all the board's faces, it was just priceless. From Miss Jackson's express, everyone, Miss Renata, my favorite DA, Tracy. The only person who didn't seem to show any emotion was Mr. Kelsey, but I think he doesn't really have the ability to do that. But maybe the only person as equally disgusting as this monster was just Miss Wilson. Also, what's so important about seeing these hearings is to see that there are other crazy people out there. They might not have a criminal record. They don't need to have a criminal record, but they're nuts and they're dangerous. The idea that she is investing her time, she said that talks to him every single day, visits 4-hour visits at a time, would bring him home to her family if apparently she's married. So if she wasn't married, and it's like this, like, that means she would bring him around children. That means she would. How can you support this monster? There's zero redeeming factors in this monster, yet she somehow finds this way to become obsessed and then to risk everyone around her by standing up for him. It was interesting when Mr. Kelsey brings up Miss Jackson as being the judge, and it was like on cue, like out of a movie. Then Miss Jackson's face shows up on the screen, and you can almost see. And, she agreed to the deal. She was the residing judge, I guess the DA, or we don't know what the details were, but 40 years on a plea deal for these cases is actually pretty good at the time. We've seen people get far less, sadly. I don't know why he has a good time date of 2033. It's the strangest thing outside. Nowadays they don't have good time for these crimes, but at times they did with the legislation, and it's really just. But I like how Miss Jackson pointed out at the beginning when he said that he wouldn't even admit that his biological daughter. And I don't know if you picked that up, but when he first started talking about who it was, he mentions, well, it was my stepdaughter, it was my stepson, and then he gives a name, and he says Joanne or something. And he was at the beginning trying to manipulate his way by not saying that it was his actual biological child. He was almost in defense of himself. Oh, it's not a big deal. They were my stepchildren. And then he throws in the name. And it just, not that we needed any more proof, but you can see their manipulative ways. And it's so easy to spot for us now. We're so used to these hearings. But maybe someone who's not so accustomed to seeing these might, he might pull a quick one on them. And he starts off by saying it was his wife's fault. Oh, it was my wife's fault. We're trying to do all these great things. We're just good, outstanding citizens. But then she wanted to experiment. So I got her Coke. And it's like, are you kidding me? It's like 1 + 1 equals, a billion. Like, what's your point? What's that have to do with doing this to your children? Where's the connection? Oh, I bought the videos and we started to experiment. And in his mind, he thinks that this is a great story. This is a great excuse. And like Miss Jackson said, nothing changed. Nothing changed. I mean, we see different types of hearings for these monsters and roaches, and this one really just checked all the boxes of his complete delusional, just cockroach. And what's scary is that he's still young. He's 63 today. He's going to have his good time date in 9 years. I mean, that's 72 years old. That is plenty young to do a lot of harm. I mean, who's to say he's not going to go into his 90s? It's 30 years of carnage he can lay out on this world. They transferred him to Angola. This hearing took place in 2022. It's 3 years later. We might see him again sometime soon. How about that? I'm just, the anger in me listening to this, Roach, and listening. There was, in some sense, at least it was offset by everyone on the board's disgust, except for Mr. Kelsey. Although Kelsey kind of shut him up a little bit. But it even, it's not every day that I can compliment Cheryl Renatz's handling. She did a great job. I love that Tracy showed up. She does for these hearings, but it's so important that she's there. And then Miss Jackson with the mic drop. And he tries to manipulate his way at the beginning. He thinks he can manipulate Miss Bonnie Jackson. He says, oh, yeah, I think it's great that she's on the board. I guess Brendan Kelsey did his part. He's like, yeah, okay, good. Where is she? Shut up. He starts talking about the most ridiculous thing, how one of them was consensual. And he's actually saying, yeah, it was consensual. The detective lost the computer. I had a diary that proved it was consensual. And it's like, Not that it could have even been consensual, but he's still saying it, insisting that it was. Everything is just spewing, spewing, and spewing. And it's this type of evil, it's this type of monsters. The world needs to see that this exists. The world needs to see that you're going to have another enabler, another monster, another person of evil like Miss Wilson with no criminal record, working for non-for-profit, that would actually welcome this monster into her home and everyone that her home exposes and touches. And then you have the survivor write that letter. The letter of strength, the letter of resilience, the letter of my story needs to be heard. And that is really when people ask why do this, just to hear that, it's got to be it all. There's something just special about that. But I mean, enough of my soapbox. Sadly, the story doesn't end, well. The idea that he gets out on just his good time of 2033 is a travesty. But there's still plenty of time between now and then, so we'll see what happens. Thank you, Richard, for pointing out this case, and with that, I'll let you go.